Hello, it's Simon, and today is our Sunday, Sacred Sunday as we've been calling it lately. I found myself today having some solitude, having some silence, being really by myself. Now partly that is because of the lockdown, partly that's also because it's a choice. I could have reached out and made phone calls, gone on Facebook more, interacted more with more people, but really I realised I needed some time for myself. And when you make that choice, it can be quite interesting. And I found myself thinking some thought experiments I'd love to share with you now. And one of those relates to this idea of, what if? And we can look at the past, we can be present to where we are, or we can look to the future. And I think that's the nature of humans. It's possibly conditioning, possibly our nurturing, but I think it's very much our nature. We look out and we see what we could reach towards, we could walk towards, how we can interact with it. So here's the first of these thought experiments. I want you to imagine that you really have no limits. You can literally click your fingers and anything you can imagine could be done. I want you to imagine that you have this infinite power to create, to transform, to translate anything, to travel anywhere you like. Now, firstly, how do you feel knowing that you have that power? What's the difference between how you feel before you've watched this video and when you step into that and going, I have infinite power? If you did, it's a thought experiment. Not for you to believe it's true, but just imagine for a second, what if it was? How would you be feeling? What would change? Would anything change? And isn't it interesting that often we limit ourselves, what we believe we can create and what we believe we can go to do? So that's the first stage, this first of these thought experiments. The second one is this. I would imagine that you've had this power and you've had it for years. In fact, it's not a new experience for you. And when you click your fingers, anything you can imagine can be manifested, can be created. So maybe right now as you sit there, you go, there's some things on my list. If I had that power right now, and in this thought experiment, in our imagination we do, I'd do that. I would fix this, I'd travel there, I'd connect with that person, I'd have this, I'd go there. So do you have those thoughts coming up for you? Do you have a sense of, I'd love to have that because I would do this? But notice that thinking has us not fully in the thought experiment. It's so hard to let go of the limitations we have for ourselves. And it's really interesting, I think, when we be with that we can do it in a movie when we're clear we're watching a cartoon or a fiction, we're reading about somebody else. And this idea of mystical powers goes back millennia. It's not a new idea of Marvel and DC in the comic books. This goes back to the ancient Greeks, ancient Romans, and many, many cultures that imagined beings, humans, with these supernatural abilities. Now here's sort of the third stage. I want you to imagine that those things on that list that you had, you've already done. In fact, they've been done for a while. So you've had this infinite power, you've had this ability to create and transform anything you want, you can and make so. And those things that you wanted to fix, they're done too. They've already been done. You've had those experiences, not for a minute, but for hours, weeks and days. In fact, they've all been ticked off. Now, how are you feeling? How would you be being in that space? What would it be like to know you've got this infinite power and those things that are on your wish list you've accomplished? Now how would you be feeling? What would you be focusing on? And I found it interesting as I went through this myself, and I'll share possibly live with you in the future what I noticed in this process. That some of the things I realized weren't the things I thought I would do when I began the thought experiment. So these three stages of one, stepping into how would it be if we had this infinite potential? 2, what are the things we're going to go tick off our list? And 3, how would it be if we'd actually got those accomplished? So that's a thought for you today on a Sacred Sunday. And again, not to fix anything, to change anything, just to allow our imaginations to stretch and to step into something I think that often we don't. And for me, I'm very grateful for the bird song outside, the gentle breeze, the fact we're not in a horrible environment. It's actually quite a pleasant afternoon here, and I can come outside and talk to you. And wherever you are in the world watching this, thank you for watching, thank you for being you, and hopefully we'll get to connect more on the phone and in the world in the future. Bye for now, and I'll see you next time.